It's 18 degrees.
And now, the fabric of family.
Hi, I'm Barry Gilreath, the evangelist for the Highland Church of Christ in Dalton, Georgia. Also your host today for The Fabric of Family. This is a program that's designed to address the issues and questions that are important to your family as well as mine. You know, God is concerned about the family, and so are we at the Gospel Broadcasting Network. And that's why we're providing this forum today to think about some issues that are especially relevant to this very important subject. And to help me today, I have a special guest, Chuck Kilpatrick. Chuck, you are the director of Greater Chattanooga Christian Services, of course located in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You've been with us on a previous program, and your interest and your passion is working with families, correct?
Right. I like to get in with the families, and you know, back a few years ago I had somebody came in my office, and it kind of shocked me because usually people, when they come in my office, when couples come in, they say, you know, we've got these problems with their family. But this family came in and they said, you know, what we would like to do is we came here today, and I know this is going to sound odd to you, is what they said, and I was like, oh, you know, what are we fixing to hear? We'd like to see how we can make our family even better. Maybe there's something that we could even do to make it better.
And you know, oftentimes, I guess it's the case that people don't search out these kinds of resources until there's a major problem.
Right. They come to the office usually, and I ask them if they've already gone to the lawyer when I'm talking to them on the phone a lot of times. And yeah, we've already gone to the lawyer. The lawyer says we need to at least try, you know, type thing. And that's when we usually get them. It's not a thing of, well, there's a few little things that we'd like to kind of work out, but it's usually when they're to the point where they're not talking to each other at all.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about family today, and specifically, let's talk about children. How do you feel about children?
It's a thing that I think back just when I started out in this business was working with kids, and I look at, you know, it's not really a business, but it's a thing that I look back in 1973. I was 13 years old, and I was at Northside Church of Christ in Austin, Texas, and I decided then that it was a thing that was so neat to work with young folks that I went to the eldership there at that congregation and asked them if I could start up a youth group. So that's been a long years ago, and worked with a lot of students and things. But I just like to see kids be able to grow up in a family and then have their own family that grows up, that, you know, we're looking towards God, looking towards the Maker. You know, that's just a neat thing to me.
And you've been involved in working with local churches. You've worked also with college-age students, did you not, for a period of time?
Right. I worked there at University of Tennessee in Chattanooga for 11 years as a campus minister, and got to see the students come from the transition from being at home where all the rules were, and then they would come on campus and kind of go crazy for a while.
And you've also worked in a Navajo reservation?
I was a missionary there on the Navajo reservation for 3.5 years. And then we've carried groups out for Vacation Bible Schools for 20 years on the reservation.
We're talking about children today. And I just find that fascinating because you've worked with just a vast age group of young folks. You mentioned that you were a missionary for a Navajo reservation. Children much different in a Navajo reservation than they are, say, here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in a public school system?
Yeah, it's well, when you see the kids there are pretty well raised themselves. So after they're old enough to walk, they're pretty well on their own. I remember the first sermon that I preached at the congregation in Mini Farms, Arizona. While I was preaching, I had about 5 or 6 kids came up to me while I was preaching, during the sermon, coming up and pulling on my pants legs and talking to me, and I'd talk out to the audience for a second, then I'd talk to the kids. There's really not a lot of discipline goes on.
Oh.
So it's very different from some of the things that we see here.
But those were some exciting years, no doubt.
Oh, yes.
And you love working with children.
I love it.
Well, how does God view this work, you think?
Well, you look at just there in Psalms chapter 127, there in verse 3, he says that children are our heritage. And he says they're a fruit of the womb. That's a reward. You know, and that's why he creates it. They're so pure when they come in.
And he talks about he who has his quiver full of them is blessed.
Yes.
And, you know, some of us have our quivers more full than others.
Yes.
But I suppose there's a great blessing there, is there not?
Yes.
Well, so God delights in children, but, you know, that's not necessarily the case with the world we live in today, is it?
No, it's some of the people out in the world are having kids for lots of different reasons. A lot of them are unplanned pregnancies. You know, they in the drug world where they're selling themselves, and kids are born that way. We've got some people that actually have kids to get government checks. You know, it's a sad situation that they're used in that way.
Do you see a lot of that in the work that you're involved with now?
You know, we see a lot of kids that come into the system, as they call it, the state system, that are from that kind of thing, that people, it's not a planned pregnancy, it's a thing that they are with so many different people, they get pregnant and then they turn the kids over to the state or some agency.
Well, let's say someone's watching this program today, say they find themselves in that situation, a pregnancy that they did not desire on the front end. You know, so many people in the world today would say, well, just go and get an abortion.
Abortion, to me, is not an option at all. You know, you're still dealing with a living person there. And they can come, you know, to our office there, and we'll sit down with them, and we'll show them the option that they have, you know, of adopting that child out, or a thing that we can work with them through different agencies here in town to where that they can raise that child on their own with some help from folks. We also have some folks that we can that we deal with down in Huntsville, Alabama, at the Agape down there, that's set up by the Churches of Christ in that area, that they have a home down there for unplanned pregnancies, that the girl can go down there and stay, and they'll work with her all through the pregnancy. And
so I guess the message that that you're telling us, and that we want to get out to those who are viewing this program, is number one, abortion is wrong. It's immoral. It's the taking of innocent life. But number two, if one finds themselves in that situation, there are options.
Yes.
There are good options.
Well, I think when we just look at just the story there of how John the Baptist, you know, kicked inside his mom when Mary was there, and it was a thing that several places you see of where the babies were reacting before they were even born, you know. They had a thing the other day on TV, I think it may be coming on tonight somewhere, about showing how the elephants practice running while they're in the mother's womb. And different animals, they practice different things. Well, kids do the same thing. If you look at a fetus inside, a lot of times they'll be sucking their thumb before they're even born.
So you do counseling then for unwed mothers?
Yes. We'll sit down and talk with them and work with her, show them the options, and then if they decide to keep the child, we'll work with them on parenting. Because, you know, we've got kids even in the city here of Chattanooga that kids are having kids. You know, we've got 13-year-olds that have kids. Last year I had a 17-year-old that had 2 kids, you know, already. So it's very common, you know, thing that we're dealing with.
Well, you know, we think about Jesus Christ, and we think about all the many different aspects of him, and all of the many attributes that he had. But you know, one of the attributes that really stands out to me, and certainly in the Scripture, is the fact that Jesus loved children.
You know, the apostles didn't really realize just how much he loved kids until they were wanting to send them away one time. And if you look over Matthew, I think it's about chapter 18.
Well, let's just turn over there and read that.
Yeah, that's just a neat story, because that tells, you know, just how Christ felt about the kids.
Matthew chapter 18, I believe, beginning in verse 2 there. And I'll let you read that.
Okay, there, starting at verse 2, it says, "Then Jesus called the little children to him and set them in the midst of them, and said, Assuredly I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will not by no means enter into the kingdom of heaven." He said they had to become as little kids.
Yeah.
And he set that kid right there in the midst of them and used them as an example. And that's one thing about working with kids that I love, is the innocence that's there. You know, some people, when they come into counseling adults, I have to work weeks to get problems out of them. But I can bring a kid into the office and set them in that big old rocking chair that I've got in my office and let them start rocking and let them start talking, and you can ask them questions, and they're innocent. They're going to tell you everything because they don't know that it's bad. They don't know that it's good. They just know facts.
They're an open book.
They are.
Yeah. And so the Lord cares about kids. Do we have any examples, though, from Scripture where perhaps God demonstrated His love and care for children? Maybe from the Old Testament.
Over in Genesis chapter 16, I guess one of my most favorite stories about how God was there with Sarah and Abraham, and we've got Hagar, you know, that has Ishmael.
And Hagar was
a handmaiden.
Okay.
You know, and was brought into Abraham and had Ishmael. And then the way the story goes there, Sarah got jealous of Hagar and just told Abraham, I want you to get rid of her and send her away. And she left for a time, and then she came back. And then an angel came and told Abraham that she needed to be sent away. But he also said that it would be, just many generations of kids would be from this one child here. If you go a few chapters over, you get to see one of the most touching stories there that God tells about how that there in chapter 21, you see that it comes to the point of where they're in the desert. They've left Abraham, and Hagar is in the desert, and she has this skin that has water in it. Usually they used, the belly of a cow, and they would, use them for water bottles. And said then the bottle was empty, and when the bottle was empty, she knew that they were going to die. So she placed her child there under a bush.
Yeah, verse 15, chapter 21, it says, and the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. Yeah.
And it said she went about a bow's length off, which is about 100 yards, because she couldn't stand to watch her child die. But then in that, you see that the kid started crying, and God saw the child, and God took care of the child and brought the mom and the child back together again. And the kid didn't die.
That's just absolutely a fascinating story, because verse 17, it does say, God heard the voice of the lad and said unto his mother, What aileth thee? Fear not, God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Mm-hmm. God hears the voice of every little child when it cries. Yeah. Every little child when it's going hungry or thirsty or being abused. God hears the voice of these little children. And the point is, I think, that we see here is God expects us as parents. Hagar was the mother, to take care of these children. It's so easy to, and I say so easy, seemingly it is for some folks to just want to discard their children. And that's not an option, is it, if we're going to do what God wants us to do?
He wants us to take care of the kids, not just when they're little, but all the way through life. You know, as he said, that they're a reward. You know, so it's not a thing that they're a detriment to us. They're a reward. So it's a thing of where we work with them through the different stages that they go through. I've got a 24-year-old that, you know, that I still work with. You know, and I've got the 20-year-old girl that I'm still working with.
Yeah.
And will be the rest of my life.
And there are different ways to take care of a child.
It's not just a thing where you have to go through and say, well, I don't have the resources. There's so many resources out there now that you can be connected in with. You know, you can get in touch with us there at Greater Chattanooga at Christian Services, and we can tell you the different agencies. And there's programs that buys food for the kids and the mom. There's housing that they can get in touch with. You know, it's a lot of different things that's out there.
And if there is someone watching the program today and they find themselves in a situation to where they just do not believe they can provide the care for that child, they can still care for the child by allowing others to help care for the child.
Right.
And that's where you come in.
And, you know, we will sit down and as I've told folks over and over again, it's a thing that we sit down and we look at the options. And sometimes moms don't feel like they're mature enough that they can take care of the kids. And we try to show them of different ways that they can. And, you know, if it comes to the point of where we see, okay, this mom's not going to, you know, we'll help them in making decisions by giving them all the information they need if it comes to adoption. But we never go to a thing of abortion, because abortion is not right. God didn't want it. God doesn't like it. And so we go through and we try to work with them as much as we can, all the way up to the birth of the child and past that.
Well, what are some fears that you think sometimes women who find themselves in this situation may have about perhaps pursuing these legitimate and godly options that are available to them?
Well, some of the fears is that they'll lose all of their time. You know, and they're like, well, I'm so young, I'm wanting to go back to college. I mean, I'm wanting to go to college or go back to college, and there's no way I can do this and have a child. And we've got folks that are in college that have children. You know, we went through, matter of fact, my son was born the day before my wife graduated college. And then I continued on in college, so it can be done, you know, and we show the different options. Sometimes it's a fear that people have because they don't feel adequate. So we give them training, you know, so that they'll feel adequate to be a parent. We actually have a toy room with a rocking chair and a camera in it that they can see different things that they may need to change. They can go through and see how the child's reacting to them. Teach them how to look into the child's eyes, you know, when they're rocking them, to bond with the child. We work with them on lots of different areas like that, so that the child will be bonded with the mom. And
you have social workers associated with Greater Chattanooga Christian Services.
Right. We have social workers. We have a person that works, actually her degree was in, you know, working with children. And it's a neat thing because they're the one that made up all the toy rooms and things of that sort. And we do play therapy and stuff, which is a neat thing with kids. Some kids don't know how to play.
Well, I tell you what, this is certainly fascinating, and I want to commend you on the good work that you're doing there. And if someone's watching the program today and want to contact Greater Chattanooga Christian Services, tell them how to do it.
They can get in touch with us in a lot of different ways. They can call us on phone at area code 423-499-9535, or they can contact us on the web, and it's GCCS2002 at bellsouth.net, or they can page me at area code 423-550-3318.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Chuck. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with us. Until next time, I'm Barry Gilreath. Good day.
Let's make the most of a minute. Two past middle-aged ladies are sitting side by side under the dryers at the beauty salon. The conversation goes something like this. Did you hear what she said about what he said to his wife concerning the boyfriend of her sister? Why, yes, the woman number two responds. She said that he said to his best friend that he used to love her, but she didn't love him back, so he may go back and marry his cousin's first wife. The word is gossip. It's dangerous because people listen to it. I mean, face it. People will believe anything if you whisper it. And damage done by gossip is often irreparable. You can't erase a spoken word. If you're a gossiper, you need to repent of it. Paul warns in 1 Timothy 5:13 of the Bible that some will wander about from house to house and not only idle, but tattlers and busybodies, speaking things that they ought not. Let's work to practice the golden rule in our speech and always taste our words before we speak them. I'm Glenn Colley, hoping you make the most of your minutes.
Hello, I'm Jim Dearman, host of Good News Today. I'd like to invite you to join us for Good News Today every morning at 8 a.m. local time here on GBN Radio.
Love rules. Talking love. Love rules. Talking love. Love rules at the Mars Hill Bible School. Love rules. Talking love. Love rules. Talking love. Love rules at the Mars Hill Bible School. At the Mars Hill Bible School.
Speech on. Lock rotation. Page 1 of 3. Selected. Screen recording.